true power doesn't roar. It whispers. It doesn't demand attention. It commands it without a sound. In a world obsessed with noise, status, and spectacle, the most dangerous force in any room isn't the loudest. It's the one that stays calm, calculated, and unreadable. This is the essence of Machiavellian wisdom. Violence is loud, but intelligence is silent. While others react in anger, lash out in panic, or chase attention to prove their strength, the strategist does none of that. He watches. He listens. He calculates. And when he moves, it's not to be seen. It's to end the game before it ever begins. The ones who shout often reveal their fear. The ones who threaten expose their weakness. But the one who remains emotionally neutral, whose presence alone shifts the mood of a room, holds the real power. Machiavelli understood this deeply. He knew that brute force may win a battle, but it's psychological invisibility that wins wars. When you no longer need to prove yourself, you move differently. You don't react to insults because silence makes them echo. You don't declare war. You let your enemy unravel, imagining what you might do. This type of power isn't built in the spotlight. It's built in restraint. It's built in self-control, patience, and the ability to see 10 moves ahead while everyone else is stuck in reaction. Real strength is about maintaining inner stability while chaos rages around you. It's about recognizing that the strongest energy isn't the one that burns hot and fast. It's the cold, steady force that outlasts everyone. To embody this level of control means becoming untouchable, not by being cruel or disconnected, but by refusing to be ruled by emotion. You learn to carry silence like a blade. You let your calm unsettle those who mistake your stillness for weakness. And most importantly, you understand that the most powerful presence in the room isn't the one who yells. It's the one everyone watches in silence, wondering what he's thinking. That's not intimidation by force. That's domination through mastery. And once you adopt this mindset, you no longer need to fight to be respected. You simply become someone they won't dare to test. Perception is everything. In any conflict, truth is secondary. The battlefield doesn't begin with fists or weapons. It begins with the story being told, with the image being projected, and with the narrative being believed. Machiavelli understood that people do not act on facts. They act on appearances. He wrote, "Men judge more by the eye than by the hand. For everyone can see you, but few truly understand you." That's why the first rule in any confrontation is clear: control the optics, and you control the outcome. When you appear strong, calm, and unshaken, even if you're struggling internally, others hesitate. That hesitation is your opening. It doesn't matter who is right. It doesn't even matter who is stronger. What matters is who looks like they're in control. Machiavellians know how to perform under pressure. They stay still when others panic. They smile when threatened. They don't interrupt. They let the opponent speak first, and then twist their words into a weapon. In this game, optics aren't superficial. They're strategic. The person who controls the narrative shapes the battlefield. In business, in politics, in personal rivalries, the most composed presence often wins by default. If you appear emotional, reactive, or unstable, even the truth won't save you. But if you appear focused, detached, and poised, even lies can be believed in your favor. That's not manipulation for the sake of cruelty. It's strategic positioning in a world that favors illusion over substance. You don't have to overpower your opponent. You only have to appear untouchable. Let them look erratic while you remain silent. Let them argue in your presence while you respond with stillness. In a world where so few can master themselves, those who do appear godlike. Because when you control how you're seen, you control how you're treated. And in confrontation, that's more powerful than any weapon. Reshape the environment, not the enemy. In any conflict, confronting a person head-on only fuels resistance and exposes your vulnerabilities. But reshaping the very environment in which the conflict takes place transforms the game entirely. Instead of forcing someone to change who they are, the true strategist alters the space around them, shifting their conditions until their next move becomes inevitable and predictable. This is the essence of environmental manipulation. You don't battle against the inherent nature of a person. You subtly change the rules of engagement so their decisions align with your strategy, almost as if they're acting naturally under new constraints. Think of it like rearranging the pieces on a chessboard. You might not remove an enemy outright, but you can move the walls, close off escape routes, and force them into a position where every choice disadvantages them. When deadlines shift, resources drain, or alliances falter due to unforeseen changes, it is not brute force that wins the day. It is the slow, methodical manipulation of the conditions under which battles are fought. Every business negotiation, every political maneuver, and every personal rivalry is won by those who understand that controlling the environment is far more potent than attempting to reform an opponent's character. Rather than engaging in direct confrontation, that only heightens emotions and invites unpredictable retaliation, you take control of time, space, and conditions. Rescheduling meetings. Altering budgets. Isolating support systems. All these subtle shifts are aimed at disrupting their rhythm and exhausting their strength before they even realize what's happening. When you reframe a scenario, you force your adversary to adapt under new rules, often leading them into making mistakes or betraying their original intentions. By focusing on the external, tangible aspects of conflict, rather than the chaotic inner workings of a person's mind, you create a controlled battlefield where your calculated pace and tempo decide the outcome. This approach is not merely about playing defense. It is about constructing an arena where your enemy has no option but to act in ways that ultimately benefit your cause. In this strategy, success is measured not by direct victory, but by the transformation of the conflict environment itself, ensuring that every decision made within it tilts in your favor. Sometimes, the most lethal move is to appear harmless. In a world that rewards visible power, the greatest threat is the one no one sees coming. Machiavelli understood that the predator who roars too soon invites caution. But the one who limps, apologizes, and plays the fool disarms the room. And that's when the trap is set. To feign weakness is not to be weak. It is to master the art of misdirection. It is to let your enemy relax, underestimate you, expose their strategy, and open their defenses, all while you quietly prepare your strike. This is not cowardice. It's calculated warfare. It's understanding that the scalpel cuts deeper than the sword, and precision will always outlast brute force. Machiavelli wrote that a ruler must learn to be both the lion and the fox, strong enough to destroy, clever enough to deceive. When you pretend to retreat, to submit, to apologize, do so without surrendering your intention. Let them believe they've won. Let them lower their guard. Let them grow arrogant. Because arrogance creates blindness. And in that blindness lies your advantage. Your power grows not in retaliation, but in restraint. You are not retreating. You're resetting the stage for a more devastating blow. The real masters of confrontation do not win by emotional explosion. They win by silent timing. The moment of greatest power often comes when they least expect it, when they think you're weak, broken, or disarmed. That's when you strike. Not wildly. Not noisily. But precisely. Where it hurts most. Where recovery is impossible. Where retaliation is too late. When done correctly, the opponent never even sees the war begin, only that it's already over. To feign weakness is to weaponize humility. It is to remain underestimated until it's too late. And in that delay, you take control of both time and outcome. You don't just defeat your enemy. You let them walk themselves into your victory. If you must confront, finish it. Half measures are not mercy. They are invitations for retaliation. A wounded enemy is far more dangerous than a defeated one. Because pain breeds obsession, and obsession breeds revenge. Machiavelli warned that if you allow an adversary to walk away with even a shred of dignity, influence, or support, they will return stronger, smarter, and hell-bent on vengeance. The only way to end a confrontation is to leave no path back to power. This isn't cruelty. It's survival. In a world where people rarely forgive real humiliation, you must choose closure or consequences. Destroying completely doesn't always mean physical ruin. It means psychological finality. It means cutting off access, silencing their influence, erasing their leverage. In personal conflicts, that may mean blocking, ghosting, and burning bridges without apology. In business or politics, it could mean removing not just your opponent, but also their allies, resources, and narrative. The goal is not to punish. It's to prevent recurrence. Because unfinished conflict doesn't dissolve. It festers. Power requires decisiveness. When you hesitate, they plot. When you show mercy, they take notes. When you settle for compromise, they gather strength in the shadows. But when you strike with finality, without drama, without emotion, you communicate one undeniable truth: there will be no round two. Let them fear the silence that follows your move. Let the uncertainty haunt them. Make the example so sharp, so clean, that no one else dares to test you. The best confrontation is the one that doesn't need to be repeated, because no one is left with the courage to continue it. This isn't about dominance for ego. It's about protecting your peace. It's about never having to look over your shoulder. The untouchable don't leave doors open behind them. They don't explain their exits. They act once with precision, and never return to the battlefield. Because they understand that true victory doesn't come from defeating the enemy. It comes from erasing the possibility of their return. Patience is a superpower. In the age of instant gratification and reactive living, patience has become a superpower. Machiavelli knew that time is not something to be feared or wasted. It's a weapon to be sharpened. The wise do not rush into conflict. They wait. They watch. They calculate. Because time, when used strategically, does what no sword ever could. It wears down. It isolates. It exposes. And ultimately, it delivers victory without chaos. Most people want results now. They want revenge now. They want control now. But urgency is the enemy of precision. When you act out of impulse, you play their game. But when you stretch time, delay confrontation, and pull back when they expect you to push, you seize control of the rhythm. And control of rhythm is control of outcome. Let them throw fire. You throw silence. Let them scream your name. You say nothing. Let them assume they've won. You simply wait. Because while they're wasting energy trying to provoke you, you're tightening the noose around their own missteps. The enemy who believes you are weak because you are silent becomes arrogant. And arrogance blinds. That's when time moves in your favor. That's when they stop defending, and start exposing themselves. Patience is not passivity. It is the most deliberate act of power. It means you've mastered yourself before trying to master others. It means you've sacrificed the satisfaction of striking first for the guarantee of finishing last, and finishing right. Machiavelli never struck quickly. He let paranoia, ego, and miscalculation destroy his enemies from within. Then, once they were isolated and exhausted, he moved, not loudly, not emotionally, but cleanly. That's how time wins battles others didn't even know had started. When you learn to move slower than the world, you start to see more than the world. And in that space between reaction and response, you gain the edge. Because the person who can delay gratification, delay conflict, delay speaking, is the person who survives long enough to dominate. Not with fire. But with patience that cuts deeper than any blade. Final lesson: master yourself first. In life, you won't always win by being louder, faster, or more aggressive. The true advantage belongs to those who are strategic, silent, and emotionally in control. One of the most important lessons from Machiavelli's playbook is that power isn't about domination. It's about positioning. You don't need to meet every insult with fire. You don't need to win every argument. What you need is to master yourself first. Observe without reacting. And strike only when the moment guarantees impact. Whether you're dealing with a toxic relationship, workplace politics, or betrayal, the message is clear: patience is protection. Silence is power. Don't let your emotions become someone else's weapon. Learn to isolate problems. Control how you're perceived. And never confront in weakness. Let time reveal your strength. In a world that rewards impulse and noise, your calm is your greatest weapon. Move in silence. Think 5 steps ahead. And never give anyone more access to your peace than they've earned. The more unpredictable and composed you become, the more untouchable you are. That's not just strategy. It's survival. If you found this breakdown of Machiavellian power dynamics valuable, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next deep dive into strategy, psychology, and dominance. The game is always being played, whether you choose to participate or not. The question is, will you be the pawn, or the player? Stay sharp. And we'll see you in the next video.